So the Bible Project, their videos are night and day from the video that I did from my last video. Their animations are so impressive. Um, I think just about every story in the Bible is pretty stupid. Most of them, or I should say, a lot of them, just don't make sense. They're weird. They get really, really weird. But I could watch these videos. I love this. I love the style. I don't think I don't think I've covered any videos from the Bible Project. Maybe I have, but their videos are just so well done. Anyway, so props to them for putting all this work into this video. Genuinely, it really is good. I like it anyway. So this video is titled "Why God Tests His People," and right off the bat, that's a good question, but also immediately it there's no reason why God would test His people because God already knows the outcome of the test before He even does the test. I don't know why He would test His people. He already knows. I mean, I know this isn't like a pass fail kind of test, but if it were, he would already know that they're going to pass or fail. I don't understand the point of why God would test his people. Anyway, let's get into it.
The Bible begins with God creating a beautiful world and then sharing it with all of his creatures.
And he appoints Adam and Eve to rule it on his behalf.
And God gives them access to his wisdom and life, but then tells them that there's one tree they can't eat from because it will lead to death.
So they have a choice about how to rule with God. This kind of feels like a test.
I love this style. I love this animation. It's good.
But isn't that kind of cruel for God to test
Very
them?
cool.
Well, not all tests are bad. Let's say there's a king who chooses you to fulfill a royal task because he wants to know if you are trustworthy.
Well, I guess that's a test, but really it's an opportunity to do something important and noble.
Right, but then let's say there's a rebel who hates the king and you. And he tries to convince you that you would be better off not doing what the king asks.
Well, the rebel is setting a trap.
Right, so a test could be an opportunity or a trap. And the difference is whether the one testing you has your best interests in mind.
I see. And both types of tests appear in the beginning of the Bible.
Okay, so right off the bat, they're talking about the story of Adam and Eve. This is probably one of the stupidest stories in the Bible. This story makes no sense at all. First off, you have Adam and Eve. They have zero experience and zero knowledge of the world. They are literally children, just, apparently in, just grown up bodies. But they would have zero experience of the world. They're just brought into this world. They don't know anything. They're babies as far as worldly experience is concerned. And then God expects them to not eat the forbidden fruit of mystery. I mean, it reminds me of an episode of The Simpsons. Ralph gets his first real friend. It happens to be Bart. And Bart breaks into Ralph's father. I do believe it was Ralph. I haven't seen this episode in a long time, but his father was the police chief, Wiggum. And he has the Closet of Forbidden Mysteries. And of course, the children, Bart and Ralph, break into the Closet of Forbidden Mystery, and they start playing with all the riot gear and all the stuff that the police chief has. And then he closes the door. He's not mad because he's happy that Ralph has a friend, but he closes the door and he says, "Man, what is it about this closet that children just want to get into?" And there's a big sign on the door and it says Closet of Forbidden Mysteries. I mean, I think that's very analogous to what's going on with Adam and Eve here, but it gets far worse than that, because not only did, before God created Adam and God created Eve, before that took place, he would have already have known, before he created them, before they were in existence, he would have known that I'm going to create Adam and Eve. I'm going to create the forbidden, the tree of death or whatever. Forbidden, is it the tree of knowledge or tree of life? Something to that effect. Whatever the tree was, he creates this tree. So there's the one tree they can't eat from because it will lead to death. He creates this tree, knowing full well that they're going to eat off this tree. He would have already known this. Why would he put the tree there in the first place? If he didn't put the tree there, they wouldn't even have had the opportunity to eat the fruit. But he places the tree there. He already knows beforehand that they're going to eat from this tree. He already knows beforehand that the serpent is going to come and convince them. He already knows all this, but sets in motion all of the events to unfold and take place. And then this is where God's entire project, his entire human experiment fails. Right in the beginning. I mean, how long? I don't know how long Adam and Eve were roaming around the garden for, but I mean, right off the bat. And then from there, we get all of the sin of the world just from this one event that God clearly knew was going to take place. I think I used the example when I was talking to somebody one time that like let's say that God said it wasn't a tree. Let's say that it was God said to Adam, "Hey, do not stab Eve. Don't do it." But God already knows that he's going to stab Eve. Well, Adam looks around and there's no knife. And he's like, "Well, I guess I can't stab Eve because I don't have a knife." And then God places a knife on the ground and he just sits back, doing his little Mr. Burns evil. And then, of course, Adam stabs Eve because God provided the knife. God had the knowledge. God created this. God did all of this. He had the knowledge that all of this was going to take place and let the events unfold anyway, and then decides to punish them forever, until Jesus comes along. And if you believe in him, then it's all forgiven. This is where it all starts, the fall. All right, I've rambled. Let's go back to where we were. The serpent that God would have also created, and God would have known that he was going to
has your
have a
best
word
interests in mind.
with Eve.
I see. And both types of tests appear in the beginning of the Bible.
And real quick, God definitely does not have humans' best interest in mind. If he did, he wouldn't have put the fruit tree there.
God tells them to eat of the tree of life and not the forbidden tree.
Yeah, this is God's test of loyalty. God wants to...
But it's not a test of loyalty when you already know beforehand that your creation is going to fail the test 100% without a doubt. If I place this tree here, which I don't have to do, but I'm going to do it anyway. If I place this tree here, they're going to fail this test. And then you place the tree there, then it is no longer Adam and Eve's fault. It is yours, God. Why did you place the tree there knowing full well they were going to fail this test long before they even came into existence? Why did you create the serpent? Why did you let the serpent in your garden? Why? This story makes no sense. Like I said, it's literally one of the stupidest stories of the Bible.
Rule the world with humans as his partners, which means they will need to trust his wisdom over their own.
But then a rebel comes and tests them to eat of that other tree.
Right, the rebel seizes this opportunity and twists it, so he can lead the humans into exile and ultimately death.
He
As
turns
God
the
sits
test
back and watch.
into a trap.
But after the humans fail, God promises that one day a human will come who will pass the test and defeat the snake. And as the story moves on...
So genuine question. And if you know the answer to this, please leave it down in the comments. But is that in Genesis? That one day a human will come and pass the test? I don't recall this from Genesis. I mean, I could be wrong. I genuinely don't know. But I've read the story of Genesis, and I don't remember anything in there that a human will come along. And I mean, obviously they're referring to Jesus here. I do believe, but I don't remember that from Genesis.
God gives a couple named Abraham and Sarah an opportunity to trust him by leaving their family behind, to go to a new land where God will use them to restore his blessing to all people.
So this is a test.
And at first, things go well. But Abraham quickly failed.
All right, I'm gonna pause it. Daniel Blair, if you've made it this far, yes, I'm pausing the video yet again. I want to mention just a couple things. All tests from God are stupid because God already knows the outcome of the test. He knew it before any of this existed. He knew it before he created the earth. He knew it. So any test is a placebo. I mean, there's no real outcome. There can only be the outcome that God knew was going to be the outcome. So tests are stupid. But I also just want to say real quick, I always keep forgetting to mention this in my videos, so I want to mention it now. If you've made it this far, please like, please subscribe. This is a very small channel. I'm super happy with my growth. I mean, I never thought I'd get anybody watching me, and I'm actually really happy. I think I got like 73 subscribers, which is huge for me. I'm very happy with that. I never thought anybody would be commenting and engaging in dialogue on my videos, but they are, and that's really cool. So if you made it this far, please subscribe. Help me grow a little bit. I'd appreciate it. Let's keep going.
He lies to protect himself, and then he and Sarah scheme to get a son their own way by abusing one of their servants.
Definitely not passing the test.
But God doesn't give up on Abraham. He gives him one final opportunity, a test to prove his loyalty. God asks Abraham to go up onto a hill and offer his son as a sacrifice.
So God, you're a monster. Why would you ever put somebody through this? You're terrible. You're awful. This is ridiculous. Don't do this. Don't make somebody test their loyalty to you by slaughtering anybody or anything, but especially not your own son. And Abraham, you're a POS for about to go be. He was gonna do it. He was gonna go through with it. Are you out of your mind? If you're a Christian and you hear this question, answer down in the comments too. If God puts you to this test, would you do it? There's not a chance. I wouldn't even kill a stranger if a God asked me to do it, let alone my own family. I wouldn't kill a mouse if a God asked me to kill a mouse. I'd just be like, nah. And that'd be the end of the conversation.
Can't imagine a more intense test.
A disgusting test. A disgusting test.
In the last moment, God stops him and provides a substitute animal in the place of his son. God then says he will fulfill his promise through Abraham's family because he passed this test.
So Abraham passed this test, but he hasn't proven to be a fully trustworthy partner. We're still waiting for someone who can pass the ultimate test.
Yeah, and as the family of Abraham grows and becomes a nation, God continues to test them.
Like when the Israelites wander in the wilderness for 40 years.
They have lots of opportunities to trust in God, to provide water or daily bread.
But they instead blame God and even say that he trapped them in the desert to kill them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty fair assumption that they were trapped in the desert to kill them. It's an assumption. Because, I mean, that's not what eventually happens, but that's a pretty, 40 years? Holy cow, 40 years? And it's not even that far away? What is the distance? 400 miles away, Egypt to Israel. If it's 400 miles and it took them 40 years to get to their promised land, yeah, I don't think that's an unreasonable assumption,
so
that they were left in the desert to die. And maybe this was a different story, but didn't God also throw like poisonous snakes at them while they were out in the desert? Like, not just like scent snakes, not just like the people were like, oh my God, there's poisonous snakes in this desert, but like God actually physically cast the snakes on them. And maybe that's in a different, God did this to a group of people. I just don't remember if it was from this story or not. But yeah, it's 400 miles. Look at this. That's all they had to walk. And it took 40 years to find this place. Yeah, I'd be pretty mad too. And dude, I work out in the sun. All day long. And I live in a very moderate climate. It's on a hot day it's in the high 90s, but I mean this is the desert, dude. Like, 40 years out there, man. I need to come home and get an air conditioning and shower every day, and that's from being out there for like 8 hours. Can you imagine being in the desert? I'd be pretty mad too. Let's keep going.
Story in the Hebrew scriptures is pretty much the same. The Israelites don't trust in God and his promise. They're not loyal, and eventually the whole nation fails.
So humans have an amazing opportunity to partner with God, but no one is really qualified.
And so all of this brings us forward to Jesus. There's a story where Jesus
Was it like a cowboy, like doo-doo?
And so all of this brings us forward to Jesus. There's a story where Jesus goes into the wilderness for 40 days and 40 nights without food or water.
Ah, yes, the wilderness. And there, he meets a sinister creature who tries to trap.
Hey, hold on. Are they he did say that it was like
Ultimate.
the test was done twice to the Hebrew people and they failed and the nation collapsed, and then again with Jesus who succeeded. But that was 40 days, man. These guys were out there for 40 years.
Test.
That's not
And as
comparable.
the family of Abraham grows and becomes a nation, God continues to test them.
Like
Oh, I
when the
went back.
Israelites wander.
I went back
These-
way too far.
So
I'm so
the rest
bad
of
at reminding.
Israel's story in the Hebrew scriptures is pretty much the same. The Israelites don't trust in God and his promise. They're not loyal, and eventually the whole nation fails.
So humans have an amazing opportunity to partner with God, but no one is really qualified.
And so all of this brings us forward to Jesus. There's a story where Jesus goes into the wilderness
Yeah.
for 40 days and 40 nights without food
40 days,
or water.
40 nights.
Ah, yes,
I call BS. You're in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. You're toast. You can't survive
the
that.
wilderness. And there, he meets a sinister creature who tries to trap him.
But Jesus trusts in God's wisdom.
Jesus trusts in God's wisdom? I thought Jesus was God.
And he passes the test.
Then later there's a story about Jesus going to pray with some friends, and God commissions him to go up to Jerusalem and to give up his life.
Okay, so is Jesus God or is Jesus not God? I mean, I get the whole concept of the Trinity, that they are one and three separate parts. I understand this. But when you reference it like this, I mean, you're openly acknowledging that Jesus had no idea he was God, and I believe that to be the case. That if this Jesus character was a real real person who existed, which I'm fine with that. But you're acknowledging that even Jesus had no idea he was God, and I agree. But you're making a very clear distinction that that God commissioned Jesus, but Jesus is they're the same person, right? It makes no
And so
sense. The Trinity makes no sense. I don't care. The Trinity is stupid. What a dumb concept that is. Who came up with that? It wasn't an original concept. The Trinity was added in later on. Like for sure. And I don't think people thought it through to its like logical conclusion that Jesus is God, but he also isn't God. And then the Holy Spirit is also God and also Jesus, but not God. It's dumb. It's a dumb concept.
Goes. And on the night of his arrest, Jesus took his friends and went to a garden.
And he told them to pray because tonight, he said, is the great test.
And he prayed to God, please let this test pass from me, but not
he
my
is.
desire, rather
But
may
he
your
is
desire
he is
be done.
God.
In this garden, Jesus shows us what passing the test looks like. He trusted in God's wisdom, he loved others more than himself, and he confronted evil with good.
Even though it cost him his life.
Right. Jesus offered his own life as a sacrifice to cover for all of the failed tests of his people Israel and of all humanity. Jesus passed the ultimate test on behalf of us all.
This is amazing, but
It's not amazing. That's stupid. What do you mean he passed the ultimate test on behalf of us all? What test? Why? I mean, if the person who created the test, he already knows the outcomes of all the tests. So if he already knows that 39 tests are going to fail, but the 40th one is the one that will succeed, but he already has knowledge of this, then just skip the 39 tests. You jerk. Skip the 39 tests and do the one. Save the people. Not that you have to do this because you're God. You could just be like, all right, you guys are saved. I forgive you for the whole tree thing. Man, all right, let's go.
That doesn't mean everything is gonna be great in our lives. I mean, let's be honest, we're gonna face our own tests every day.
Right. Jesus said every generation of his followers would have their own tests that will force them to trust God in radical new ways.
And these tests can be difficult and often painful.
But remember, a test from a good God is an opportunity.
All right, so that'd be cool. Give me an example of a test from a God, and especially one that's gonna give me that's gonna be painful. What is a test from a God, and how do you know?
This is why James, a leader in the early Jesus movement, said that we should be grateful when we face tests and trials because they offer us a gift. It's an opportunity to surrender to God's wisdom and to become more like Jesus, the one who loved us and who passed the test on our behalf.
How about instead of the test, you give the instructions first? That'd be nice. I mean, he's just testing people, but there's no way to verify. What I'm assuming he's talking about is like hardships in your life, like God will never give you more than you can handle, that old thing. I'm assuming he's referring to this, that when you have something that's difficult in your life, when you're going through a real hardship, like the loss of a family member, or just something really traumatic, that these are just tests. Like, that's a stupid test. That's a terrible test. Don't do that anymore, God. Please stop doing that. Tim Mackey. Oh, yeah, okay, Bible Project. Yeah, so I've covered. Did I do Tim Mackey? I don't know if I did Tim Mackey. I know I've referenced Tim Mackey, but he did. Yeah, he was the one who did the whole the gay marriage thing, that he was like super sketchy and scared to say that gays can't get married, but he said it anyway. Anyway, what a cool animation. Just start to finish. Very creative. I like this. I like this a lot. Very cool. I like these fiery. It's like they really got the animation down for these portally gateways.
Seizes this opportunity
and they rolled with it.
So
There's
he can
like 30 of these things
their own
in here.
way by abuse.
But very cool animation. Very stupid video. Just all of it is tests from a God make no sense. The story of Adam and Eve makes no sense. The Hebrews, I guess maybe they weren't Hebrews at the time, but God's chosen people wandering in the desert for 40 years makes no sense. The story of Jesus coming to sacrifice himself to himself makes no sense. Especially when he is the one, but he's also not the one, because he is God and he's also not God. He's the one that created the rules in the first place. And you don't get to offer salvation. You don't get to offer forgiveness or redemption for rules that you yourself have created. That's called extortion. Like, you can't like go. All right, I'm not getting into it. All right, the video was dumb. Animations were cool. Tests from a God are really stupid.